Welcome back. This is the F&O show, but we are taking stock of Brigade Enterprises and the quarter gone by. Now, we have seen a stupendous run on the entire realty sector, and Brigade Enterprises has, in fact, been a participant and had given returns a manifold over the course of the just last 12 months, not unlike many of its peers. We've seen a considerable amount of momentum building up with respect to the entire real estate sector. The question really is that where do we go from here? Well, we are in conversation with Pavitra Shankar, Managing Director at Brigade Enterprises, who's joining us on the show. Pavitra, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time out. My question then, to start off with, is exactly that. We've seen a lot of momentum being built up over the course of the last 12 months. The financial year gone by has been very, very strong for your company. Where do we go from here? What are the expectations when it comes to FY25?
Hey, thank you for having me. And yeah, it's been a fantastic year for Brigade. And I think the outlook also is extremely positive. We are a developer across residential, office, retail, and hospitality. And while a lot of the focus tends to come on the residential sector, I would also have to say that the office segment for Brigade has done extremely well over the last year. We are completely leased out despite having a very large contribution from the SEZ portfolio. Our hotel sector is also doing extremely well, so very good occupancy and ARR levels. And on the residential side, we've been able to show growth with launches coming into launches happening, as well as the absorption in terms of inventory and ability to also increase price. So we see all of those three trends continuing in the coming year, and therefore we're extremely positive about it. We've been showing that through aggressive growth in our land bank and trying to push as many launches into the market as soon as possible, given that the customer demand is supporting the velocity with which we can sell, as well as absorbing pricing. On the office side as well, I think leasing has been pretty healthy in our portfolio, but now we'll be looking to lease up some of our newer space that's under construction. And on the hospitality side as well, we are looking to add another 1,000 keys over the course of the next couple of years. So overall, very bullish. We are focused on markets of Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad, and we intend to stay focused on those markets, maybe look at tier 2 cities in South India, but these are our areas of focus.
Pavitra, I'm reading a handful of reports which suggest that inventory levels at the moment are considerably low when you compare the current inventory levels as against last year. However, at least one pocket of the market is also expecting a little bit of saturation as we move into the next few quarters. Well, there is a suggestion that there could just be an increase in supply, not just for your company, but perhaps the entire sector and in the markets that you operate in. What is your reading in this case?
Yeah, I think it's just a natural part of the cycle. You know, this is an industry where it takes quite a while to sign up land and then get approvals, design, and put the inventory into the market. So it's anywhere from 12 to 24 months. So naturally, the reaction tends to happen as a little bit of a lag. If one is lucky to have inventory that we can launch into a strong market, then that's fantastic. That's the best case scenario. But typically, there is always going to be some kind of lag. So for us at Brigade, we look at, what is the visibility we have over the next 3 to 4 years as we're signing up projects, and what are the assumptions that we're making when we take on new projects. So naturally, I think we do have to expect that there will be a cycle at some point. But when we go into that cycle, does Brigade have the right parcels of land? Do we have the right type of product that the customer wants to pay for? And that's why we feel we've been able to maintain a leadership position over the last almost 4 decades. And we think we'll be able to continue to do that. So expecting the market to continue at this pace is great, but we also have to always keep in mind that should things shift, we're still in a position of strength at that point. That said, I still think the next few years will still be very strong. I think we have to be careful in terms of how much price appreciation we are trying to underwrite and ensure that the product we are giving to the customers is actually something that they want, whether in terms of sizing, specifications, or naturally in the location in which people are looking for space.
Pavitra, before I come to you, just addressing something that we have from the IMD, and well, the news is that the monsoon is upon Kerala, And when it comes to the northern regions in India as well, we are looking at, an update and an advancement when it comes to the monsoons. Of course, positives, so in line with expectations, we did know that, and we had an understanding that monsoons had, there was a little bit of preponement, if I can say that, and that's exactly how things are faring. And that will perhaps be a positive when it comes to sentiment in the markets, especially when it comes to the consumption and the rural sector. But Pavitra, coming back to our conversation here, could you give us an idea on the pipeline that you have at the moment in terms of projects that Brigade is working with?
Yeah, so we have a pipeline. We look at it as the next 4 quarters on a rolling annual basis. So we have around 16 million square feet of projects in the pipeline. About 12.5 of that is from the residential sector, spread across Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Mysore. So a very diverse set in terms of geography. We also have around 2 million square feet in the office space that we're planning to launch, and around 400 to 420 keys from the hospitality sector. So we are very excited about the projects coming in across all domains of our business, and we expect to see these entering the portfolio over the course of the next 12 months or so. For the office and hospitality, it means that we'll just start constructing on these projects, but when they actually start generating cash flows, that will be once the project is completed. But on the residential side, whatever we launch will come into our sales numbers over the course of the financial year.
A final question then on the expectations of your profitability, especially on the operational front. Do you see any concerns when it comes to inputs, any other aspects that could perhaps work against your margins? In fact, other factors which could probably also work in favor of your margins. Also, do you expect to maintain these margins at the current levels?
Yeah, so we had an absolutely fantastic year in terms of profitability in FY24. We showed 100% or maybe 109% increase in PBT, ending at 569 crores for the year. So it was fantastic in terms of revenue recognition and the projects at which we were, bringing to revenue as well. I think this will continue because many of the projects that we will be handing over to customers today, which is what drives the residential revenue recognition at least, these were done at fairly decent margins, so I don't expect margins to come down. But over the course of the next couple of years, say 2 to 4 years, some of these projects have been, acquired at very competitive land rates, and then eventually we will be able to sell them at higher pricing. So maybe in the future, I would say 3 to 4 years out, I expect to see an improvement in margins on the residential side. But from the office and hospitality sector, hotels will still continue to do well. Office, a lot of the leasing is already locked in. We have an 8.5 million portfolio that is already leased and running. So there's only, whatever is the rent escalation will tend to come in over there. Right. So I think we can expect similar kind of PBT depending on the residential revenue recognition.
Okay, well, Pavitra, we leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us here on NDTV Profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's the way forward for Brigade Enterprises. And on that note, we're out of time on this show. That's a wrap on the FNO show. Lots more lined up on the other side. You're watching NDTV Profit.